It's all about the ride, who's jumping in.
Toyota has the best overall value for 2013, according to IntelliChoice. See your Toyota dealer for cars that are a great deal today and an even better deal tomorrow. Toyota, let's go places.
Party with PressBox before every home game at the PressBox Purple Crush Zone, sponsored by Finlandia and located on the corner of Sharp and Ostend Streets, just 1 block from the stadium. The pregame party starts 3 hours before game time with special food and drink prices, as well as live entertainment. Go to PressBoxOnline.com now for all the details.
And welcome back to Inside PressBox. Gary Stein along with Stan the Fan Charles. Well, the Ravens are 1-1 going into today's game against the Houston Texans and are probably breathing a little sigh of relief after beating the Browns last Sunday.
Gary, I think that sums it up very nicely. They're breathing a sigh of relief. But was it the result of an improved Ravens defense, or was it simply the difference going against Brandon Weeden rather than Peyton Manning? That was the question I posed this week to Baltimore Sun Ravens reporter Aaron Wilson. Let's get his take on it.
It's a byproduct of both. Obviously, Brandon Weeden isn't the caliber of quarterback that Peyton Manning is, but he is a competent player. The biggest difference I saw beyond the talent level, the fact that the Broncos have one of the best receiving trios in the league, and the Browns have a kind of average group, and we're missing Josh Gordon due to a suspension, is that the Ravens got a lot more pressure. They had 5 sacks and a dozen quarterback hits. They had 3 sacks in the first game, and they hit Peyton Manning about 9 times. So, yeah, it was a little more pressure applied. They had a more aggressive blitz package, and I just think the quality of the teams is such that, are they 43 points, worse than Denver? You can make that argument. You look at that offense, they struggle. They punt a lot. They turn the ball over sometimes. They don't make a lot of plays, and Brandon Weeden is more of a game manager than a big play quarterback. With the exception of the 53-yard catch for Jordan Cameron, as rookie safety Matt Elam's kind of going through some growing pains and looked like a busted coverage there at the beginning of the game, the coverage was pretty sound. They were able to D these guys up, and I think that the defense got better, but the opponent got worse. So I think it's a combination of the two, and I wouldn't overreact to it in any way and say, oh, the defense is back and they'll handle every team. Against a better quarterback, perhaps like a Jay Cutler, maybe that performance wouldn't be enough. I don't know. We're going to find out as the season progresses.
Well, one thing we do know, and that was the Sun's Aaron Wilson, and we'll be joined each week by somebody from the Baltimore Sun. They do a terrific job covering the Ravens, is that the Cleveland Browns have essentially punted on this season. As we're taping this show midweek, we find out that they've traded Trent Richardson, their number 1 running back, for a number 1 pick next season.
It's almost incomprehensible. I mean, Trent Richardson was their number 1 pick back in 2012. They said they were going to build their offense around him, and now all of a sudden he's gone. I'm not quite sure what they're doing. But as far as the Ravens are concerned, I mean, I think Aaron's right. I think that some of it was Brandon Weeden. Some of it was the home field advantage. The Ravens have won 37 out of 44 games in the Harbaugh era at home. It's the second best home record in the league. So, this team will scuffle, I think, from time to time this year, but I still think they're good enough and mature enough to come out on top.
Well, we're hoping they are. It's been a long time since you got to go back to Brian Billick's last season where the season just fell apart. I'm not predicting a fall apart, but I'm afraid about today's game against the Texans. I think the Texans are a much better team than the Ravens at this point in the season.
Well, I think the Texans' offense, they're so multiple, whether or not Andre Johnson plays, which apparently he won't, but even the other guy, DeAndre Hopkins, the rookie out of Clemson, they've got 2 big bruising running backs. They've got 2 big bruising tight ends. And I was talking to you before the show. I think the middle of the Ravens' defense is going to be severely tested today by the 2 tight ends, Garrett Graham and Owen Daniels, and those 2 big running backs, Tate and Foster. And, missing Ed Reed, missing Ray Lewis. We'll see. And ironically, they'll both be in the building today.
Be in the building.
But not in Ravens uniform.
Hey, one thing is we know that they acquired Mike Huff to play safety. He lasted 1 week as a safety. Elam's already supplanted him totally? Or will you think there'll be some spots where we see him?
I think you'll see some spots with him, but I think Elam is the better player. Huff came with some baggage, and I think you saw in the opener he couldn't contain the tight end. He just couldn't make the tackles. And That's not going to work in Baltimore. That's just not happening in this town with that defense, with the history. So Matt Elam's here to stay. And, I think Huff will be in there from time to time, but Matt Elam's your guy.
Ozzy's getting a lot of criticism about the Anquan Bolden thing, about the decision to let him go. I think it's grossly unfair, and I'm not just an apologist for Ozzy, but Ozzy wouldn't have done that without the plan. And the plan included Dennis Pitta and Jacoby Jones being healthy.
Right. And I think that's the key right now. I mean, we're not going to get Pitta back, probably not for the year, but we'll see. But people forget, Jacoby Jones will probably be back in 2 to 3 weeks. I think that's going to help tremendously. Meanwhile, Marlon Brown's going to get all the game reps, which I think will help him tremendously.
All right. We're going to give our predictions and talk more about the Ravens coming up, but we'll be shifting gears, and I do mean literally. Bruce and Blake Schindler of Bob Davidson Ford Lincoln are taking us and teaching us about drift racing when we come back. Don't go away. Celebrate Jonathan Ogden's Hall of Fame career with this limited edition Collector's Magazine, which covers Ogden's career from high school to the pros and beyond. Enjoy behind-the-scenes stories from his coaches, as well as the team's decision to make Ogden the Ravens' first ever draft pick in 1996. Reserve your copy now at PressBoxOnline.com.